Hey guys, Thomas Jr. here, aka Mustached. Here to review the video game Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, which I just finished. So, with that being said, I will go over the story and the gameplay and give the scores separately if I feel that they are inclined to be different. So, we once again join Sora after the events of Chain of Memories, technically, as he eventually rejoins Donald and Goofy to not only try to re-find his friends, Riku and Kairi, but is tasked now with defeating the Heartless that have spread across the world and the Nobodies that have also come from the shells of the Heartless. And among those Nobodies are, of course, the remnant of Organization 13. So, with this burden, if you will, this added weight of exposition from Ian Sid, I do believe that this story is a lot better than the first game. That being that, yeah, you do travel across the worlds and you do take part in their various hijinks and slightly alter things from the different movies. But, again, since your task is to defeat the Heartless and the Nobodies, that is exactly what you are doing. So it feels like, excuse me, still sick, it still feels like you are accomplishing one of your 3 tasks at each world. So the weight of each task can be at its own leisure. So when it comes time to finding Riku and Kairi, it's like, oh, we'll just happen to look for them. But since they're Heartless here, well, since that's one of my tasks, might as well. So it's a pretty solid setup. As for the Organization 13, I do think from playing Chain of Memories and seeing a little bit more of what they did in the background did help cement what they were trying to do. Of course, why they were trying to do it is still kind of shrouded in a little bit of mystery even after finishing the game. There's a lot of the main guy, Zemnis. There's a lot of him just assuming that Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts, the actual heart itself, will just sort of give him a heart. Just like that. Just because he wants it, So that's sort of the ordeal. So each world, again, as I mentioned, has its own slight twist to the Disney formula, adding the Heartless in, creating a whole bunch of fun. You have your returning worlds, you have your new worlds, as far as Kingdom Hearts 2 is concerned at the time, of course. And with the added of Final Mix, you have your challenges, as in this extra little dungeon, your secret bosses, as in refighting the remaining Organization 13 at the end, which I tried off-screen and it was super hard. So I didn't complete the game 100% as of this review, but I did complete the game, so that prompted me to do this review. So I do think that there are different types of ways, like 1 or 2 types of ways you can play Sora, and that is something I saw, especially when you add it and end up in the cave. Your playstyle can slightly alternate between doing more spells and being more spell oriented, and just attacking normally. And equipping certain skills may be more keen on other players. So there's a little bit of variation, which I do appreciate. But that's more of on a gameplay standpoint. So you have your secret bosses, you have your extra little content, and it does a setup of the next game. So, excuse me, with that said, I do think that the story is pretty solid. I do think that it gets everything that it wants to get across. I do think that the villain's plight is a little bit. He's so confused himself that there's a little bit of sympathy there, and that's pretty good. Excuse me. And I did like to joke around about Sora a little bit being potentially bisexual between the whole Kairi and Riku thing throughout the Let's Play, especially towards the end there. It's all in a bit of fun. But as far as the story is concerned, getting back to that, I would give the story a solid 7 out of 10. I did think that it was pretty damn solid. But let's talk about the gameplay. As I mentioned, there are slightly different variations on how you can handle the game. I thought I was playing pretty straightforwardly, just sort of whacking the Keyblade around and so on and so forth. And again, I think that's a pretty fair way to play. And then again in the cave, there seems to be a bit more incentive to do more magical abilities, especially a spell called Reflect. So with that said, I thought that the combat here was much improved from the first game. You had bosses in the first game, especially Maleficent, with their hitboxes were highly annoying and very just irritating. Here there only was like that one enemy, this like floating enemy that will like scoop up and then slam back down. Those were found in Minnie's castle primarily. Those were the enemies I was referring to. Those were the only ones where I found like the hitbox was particularly smaller. It was just that little headpiece, and sometimes you would miss that. But other than that little enemy there, every other enemy seemed fair. In their hitbox at least. So, definitely an improvement on that aspect. As well as Donald and Goofy as well. I feel like their abilities here in this game are vastly improved from the first game. They seem to be more active. They're able to take out way more Heartless than they ever did in the first game. And yeah, they are just so much more effective. And of course, you have each unique world. You have your unique character that can be with you. And since you don't have to worry about finding trinities here, you can effectively use your other allies as well on each world. Now, I will say, as I mentioned toward the end of the game, it did feel a little bit unfortunate that like you couldn't use any of the forms that were given to you in the final boss. It was just you and Riku going at it with the final boss. I do feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity there, but whatever. I don't think it ruins the moment in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I was able to handle it just fine, obviously. So it's not the biggest loss. Just a little bit of, that's weird. But then again, Donald and Goofy aren't there, so I guess that makes sense. So with that being said, I do think, as I mentioned, that the gameplay here is vastly improved. I would give this a 8 out of 10 in the gameplay section. I do believe that they highly improved upon the combat. One of the other little missteps I do think I'll say, since it did come up in my Let's Play, is Mickey. I do think he controls a little too wildly. His ability to hit things is a lot harder. I mean, that only came up once during that one boss, so that might happen more if you're not as well versed in whacking things good with your Keyblade. But other than that, again, I still do think that the main combat is vastly improved. So those are my thoughts, a 7 on the story and an 8 on the gameplay. So if you enjoyed this review of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and if you wish to see the full Let's Play of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, my Let's Play, I will leave a link in the description to the first part, and you can watch it at your own leisure. And if you liked this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out that link in the description. I'll head you over to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. Until next time, everyone, bye-bye.